everyone. Welcome back to English Conversation Studio. I'm Anna, and today we are going to talk about something that frustrates many English learners for a very long time. Because many people want to speak English fluently, but they feel stressed, confused, and overwhelmed every time they study grammar. And eventually they start believing that English is too difficult for them, even though the real problem is often the way they are learning the language.
Hi everyone, I'm Alex, and today we are going to discuss why so many learners become obsessed with grammar rules, why this creates fear and hesitation during speaking, and how you can actually improve your English naturally without constantly stressing over every tense, structure, article, and grammar formula while trying to communicate in real-life situations.
One of the biggest problems is that learners often think grammar is the most important part of English, so they spend hours memorizing rules, exceptions, formulas, and complicated structures. But at the same time, they almost never practice real communication, which means they become good at solving grammar exercises, but still struggle to speak naturally in simple everyday conversations.
Yes, and this creates a very frustrating situation where learners know many grammar terms like present perfect, conditionals, or passive voice, but when somebody asks them a basic question in real life, they suddenly freeze, hesitate, panic, and cannot answer smoothly because their brain is trying to analyze grammar instead of focusing on communication and meaning naturally.
Another problem is that many learners believe they must create perfect sentences before speaking. So every time they want to say something, they stop and mentally check grammar first. And this destroys fluency because conversations happen quickly and naturally, not slowly like written grammar exercises inside textbooks or classrooms.
Exactly. And native speakers themselves do not consciously think about grammar rules while speaking most of the time because their language patterns became automatic through years of listening, repetition, interaction, and real communication practice instead of constant grammar analysis during every sentence they produce.
I think grammar becomes stressful when learners try to learn everything at once, because English has many rules, exceptions, and structures, and if you focus on mastering every single detail immediately, your brain becomes overloaded, tired, and discouraged very quickly, especially when you start comparing yourself with fluent speakers online.
Yes, and many learners forget that language learning is a gradual process because even children learn languages naturally, step by step through exposure, repetition, listening, and communication, long before they ever learn formal grammar terminology or complicated sentence structure explanations in school.
One thing that really helps is focusing on understandable communication instead of perfect grammar. Because if people understand your message clearly, communication is already successful, even if your grammar is not completely perfect during every sentence you say while practicing English.
Exactly. Communication should always come first because fluency grows through active usage, and grammar usually improves naturally over time when learners repeatedly hear and use common sentence patterns during conversations, videos, reading, listening practice, and daily English exposure.
Many learners are surprised when they realize that they already know enough grammar to start speaking, because basic structures like present simple, past simple, and future expressions are already enough to communicate many daily ideas, opinions, emotions, plans, and experiences naturally in normal conversations.
Yes, and instead of constantly studying new complicated grammar topics, learners often improve faster when they practice using simple structures repeatedly until those patterns become automatic and comfortable during speaking situations without needing long pauses or mental grammar calculations.
Another helpful strategy is learning grammar through real sentences instead of isolated rules, because when you see grammar inside natural conversations, stories, and real-life examples, your brain understands how the structure actually works emotionally and practically, instead of memorizing dry textbook formulas without context.
Exactly. Context makes learning much easier because the brain remembers meaningful communication better than abstract rules, and learners who study through stories, dialogues, shadowing, and natural input often develop stronger fluency and more intuitive grammar understanding over time.
I also think learners should stop feeling ashamed about grammar mistakes, because mistakes are a completely normal and necessary part of language learning, and every fluent speaker once made thousands of errors while practicing before eventually becoming confident and comfortable communicating naturally.
Yes, fear of mistakes creates silence, and silence prevents fluency development because the only way to improve speaking is through active communication practice, where learners experiment, fail sometimes, correct themselves gradually, and continue building confidence through repetition and real interaction.
Another reason grammar feels stressful is because learners often study English only academically, where every sentence is judged, corrected, and analyzed, so the brain begins associating English with pressure instead of communication, creativity, connection, and self-expression in daily life situations.
Exactly. And learners who use English naturally for entertainment, conversations, hobbies, videos, music, or storytelling usually develop a healthier relationship with the language because they see English as a communication tool instead of only a school subject filled with difficult grammar rules.
One thing that helped me personally was accepting that fluency comes before perfection, because once you start speaking regularly, listening actively, and using English naturally every day, grammar slowly improves through repetition and exposure without needing constant stress or overthinking during conversations.
Yes, fluency and confidence grow together because when learners relax and communicate more often, their brain starts recognizing patterns automatically, and over time, grammar structures begin feeling natural instead of difficult or mentally exhausting during real-life speaking situations.
I think learners should also celebrate progress more often, because many people focus only on what they still cannot do, while ignoring how much they already understand compared to before. And this negative mindset creates unnecessary pressure that damages motivation and confidence during the learning process.
Exactly. Language learning takes time, patience, repetition, and emotional balance, and learners who stay causative, consistent, and communicative usually improve much faster than learners who constantly criticize themselves every time they make a small grammar mistake while speaking.
So today we talked about why grammar becomes stressful for many learners, how overthinking damages fluency, why communication matters more than perfection, and how learners can improve naturally through repetition, exposure, real conversations, and simple everyday English practice without constant fear of grammar mistakes.
Yes, and if you continue speaking regularly, listening actively, and focusing on communication instead of perfection, your grammar will gradually improve naturally while your confidence, fluency, and speaking ability become stronger and more comfortable every single day.
If you enjoyed this lesson, please don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends, because learning together makes the process more motivating and enjoyable.
And subscribe to English Conversation Studio for more powerful English speaking lessons, fluency training, and real-life conversation practice every week.
Thank you very much for listening and practicing with us today.
See you in the next lesson, and keep speaking English without fear.